Hi everybody, this is Scott Wyden-Kibowitz, and today I want to show you how I would go about darkening a sky in Lightroom to make it look as though I'm shooting through a neutral density filter, so the building is nicely exposed and the sky is darker. But how I do this without a neutral density filter, and before we get rolling, I want to tell you two things. One, this is a smart preview. My external drive where this photo is stored is actually disconnected. So you're going to notice banding in the sky because it's more of a low res file as I'm editing this. So don't worry about that. And the other thing that I want to point out is that in order to take advantage of this technique, this post-processing technique, you need to make sure that the camera you are using has a high dynamic range in the sensor. Otherwise, you won't be able to do this. You won't be able to recover as well as you could otherwise. So this photograph, here's actually the original, and here's a copy of it. This is actually a virtual copy. They look identical. But you can see here that the sky is actually dark and the building is nicely exposed as well, high contrast, very clean lines and whatnot. So you can see here I did do a bit of things. So I did bring down the highlights a good amount. So if I restore the highlights, you actually notice that it bumps up the sky a lot. So let's bring that back down so you can see it again. So there it is low. It is a black and white. So if I go to the black and white channel, before I get there, you can see the curves. I actually adjusted the curves as well by using this fine tune here, this adjust tone curve by dragging this photo feature. They don't really have a name for this. A bunch of options, a bunch of tools in Lightroom have this feature, but they don't really say what it is. Basically how this works is you click, and then you can go to a part of the photo and click and drag down or up and whatever, and it will adjust, and do that. It'll adjust however you need. Let's undo that again. There we go. Okay, now we're back to the beginning. I did do that as well. Oops, I reset it accidentally again. And then under the black and white channel, you can do the same thing. So you can see here, the same exact tool. I can adjust this by clicking and dragging. So I can find a specific spot and drag it down or drag it up. And you can see as I do that, it's actually adjusting the channel, and it's adjusting it for the sky, and it's also adjusting it for the building because that same color in the channel is used in both places. So in some cases, you can fine-tune it in just one tool. In some cases, you need multiple tools or multiple features in Lightroom in order to do this. So just to give you an idea of, again, where we started with. So highlights, okay, let's reset the curves, and let's reset black and white. Okay. Now, my exposure is actually brought up a little bit from normal. It's or contrast is up a little bit, the clarity is up a little bit, and so you can see that the histogram is exposing more for the highlights. So you can see that or less for the highlights. So it's actually blown out more in the highlights than in the shadows. There's actually a lot less detail in the shadows, and that's perfectly fine. I could actually bring that down and give myself a head start by bringing back some of that detail. I can even go down this way. All right, so there we go. That already brings down some of the detail. Oops, I guess the highlight I didn't reset. So they could bring down those highlights as well. Clarity is up. The tone curve this is one of those spots where you can either go through this way, and you can adjust it using the the slider here, or you can go ahead and say, okay, I want to make sure that the clouds are dark. I want to make sure that the shadows are up a little bit. I want to make sure that the windows are nice and dark or bright, whatever you want. I want to bring these up just a little bit. Bring it down a little bit. There we go. Let's see the shadows. So you can do that. So it's basically a matter of playing with different spots to fine-tune where you want that to be. Now, if you hit the J key, you actually what it's doing, and the J key is actually turning on these clipping masks. So that way, if I was to do too much shadows, you actually see what is going to be have no detail. What will have absolutely no detail whatsoever. Or if you go up in the highlights, it'll be the same thing. So white or blue, actually. Let's reset the shadows. So right now, let's do this. I can't get it to clip well enough. There we go. So there's red over here. See the red over here? Let's zoom in. So that red means that the highlights are actually clipping, and the blue means the shadows are actually clipping. So you can turn on, it's just hitting the J key on your keyboard. So you can turn that on to get some detail. And then, of course, you can fine tune with the channels even further. So basically, this is what I do with some photos when I don't use a neutral density filter. I start here, okay? And then if I get to a point where I'm stuck, I can't go any further to bring out details in certain areas, I'll then go to my brush tool, and in the brush tool, let's reset that. I will then take the brush and start brushing. I hit the O key to see where I'm brushing. And I would start brushing. Now I'm going to do this pretty quick just so you get an idea. And let's turn off the O key now just so you can see. Bring down the exposure just a little bit of just that part in the sky. I can even bring down the highlights if I want. That's a little bit too much of the exposure. But you get the idea. So you can actually brush in just darkening the sky. And you know, if you have auto mask on, you can get pretty close to the edge without having to worry about going onto the building. And now I've got, you know, you'll have a building that's nicely exposed, and you'll have a sky that's a lot darker, which is if that's what you're going for. So this is my final image, this one right here. So in the end, it comes out exactly how you want. You know, it's a matter of using the brush. It's a matter of using the brush, a matter of using the black and white mix, the tone curve, and a little bit of the basic sliders, and you can really get there. Now there's even more you can do. If you really wanted to, there's camera calibration. You can mess with that as well. But I rarely go down to camera calibration. I usually stick with basic, tone curve, black and white, and the brush. So you don't need a neutral density filter. If your camera has enough dynamic range, then you can actually do this in Lightroom. Make that fine art black and white architecture style photograph without a neutral density filter. Thanks for watching.